Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. It's open seating for lunch, so please find a seat at any of the tables. Thank you. Open seating. Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. Open seating at any of the tables available. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, if you can please take your seats. It's open seating at the tables. Thank you.
Hello. Hello.
Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Please, bon appetit. We have a few minutes for starters, and then we'll start our program in 5 minutes. Thank you. Your Highnesses, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, marhaba. Welcome to day one of the Energy Markets Forum under the patronage of His Highness Sheikh Hamad bin Hamad al-Sharqi, member of the Supreme Council and ruler of Fujairah. My name is Diara Sabagh, I'm with Gulf Intelligence, and I'm delighted to be your Master of Ceremonies today. I'd like to extend a special welcome to the host of the forum, His Highness Sheikh Saleh Sharqi, Chairman of the Port of Fujairah, and his delegation, and a very special welcome and warm welcome also to the forum's special guest, His Excellency Haytham Al-Ghais, Secretary General of OPEC. And we're delighted to have the opportunity shortly to have His Excellency up here on stage to give us his insights on the market, and very timely as well, because OPEC, as many of you may know, have just released their annual World Oil Outlook report. So we look forward to that. Just to briefly run through the next 2 days of our program, after lunch, we're going to have 2 parallel sessions upstairs on the mezzanine floor, a workshop hosted by ENOC, which will discuss Fujairah's expanding crude oil storage facilities and the impact that that will have on East of Suez markets. And in parallel to that, we have 4 oil and geopolitics sessions being hosted by experts on Russia, the US, Turkey, and Pakistan. So we have all received that information, I hope, and any questions you might have about where you're going, you can ask our team after lunch. We will culminate today in the evening with the Aramco Trading New Silk Road CEO of the Year Awards, which will start at 7 p.m. We're delighted to have 300 plus delegates and guests from across the industry, from across the globe, who have come here to Fujairah to join us and share their insights on a number of questions facing the energy industry, under the overarching theme of navigating the age of energy security, opportunities and challenges. And there are many of those, as we know. So let's get the program started, and we're going to start by playing a video presentation from OPEC. Thank you very much.
A sustainable energy and economic future for all is achievable. Indeed, this will require the use of all sources of energy and deployment of all relevant technologies at unprecedented levels of investment and collaboration, and with energy security, economic development and emissions reduction going hand in hand. OPEC's World Oil Outlook 2023, WOO in short, takes all this on board, considering recent shifts in energy transitions-related policies and targets by many governments across the world. This latest edition of OPEC's WOO provides a forward-thinking and realistic outlook, all based on a scientific approach and hard data. Global demand for energy is expected to grow by 23% to 2045, as the global economy doubles in size and the world's population rises beyond 9.5 billion, with more than 650 million people still lacking access to electricity today and over 2 billion people without access to clean cooking fuels. Demand for all sources of energy will grow, the exception being coal. Oil remain at the top, demand projected to expand by over 16 million barrels per day by 2045, an increase of 6 million barrels over the 2022 outlook, and with the potential to move even higher. Oil demand growth will be driven by Asia, the Middle East and Africa, while on a sectoral basis, road transport, petrochemicals and aviation will maintain their lead. In autumn, demand for renewables, including wind and solar power, will grow the most and fastest in the outlook's time horizon, with OPEC member countries making significant investments in this field. Non-OPEC liquids supply grows strongly in the medium term, driven by the US, Brazil, Guyana and sustainably. Refining capacity will grow, mirroring oil demand developments, as does global crude trade, in particular flows from the Middle East to Asia Pacific. The outlook introduces 2 distinct alternative scenarios. The first scenario illustrates a technology-driven means of limiting the global temperature increase to well below 2 degrees Celsius, while curbing the negative economic impact on developing economies, especially energy exporting ones, and ensuring maximum energy security. The second scenario demonstrates how a more equitable outlook for developing economies could result in higher long-term demand for all sources of energy, oil included. Overall, OPEC's World Oil Outlook serves to explain and highlight the challenges we face on the path towards ensuring a prosperous energy future that leaves nobody behind. It serves as a reminder of OPEC's commitment to furthering a factual, inclusive, and transparent debate on the world's energy and climate needs.
This evening at the Aramco Trading New Silk Road CEO Awards, we're also delighted on the topic of part of that video, which is the transition and clean energy and renewables. Her Excellency Dr. Nawal Hussaini, who is the permanent representative of the UAE to IRENA. So we look forward to that chat with her tonight at the gala dinner. So now it's my pleasure, as you can see, my colleagues are setting up for the feature interview with His Excellency, and conducting that interview will be Brandy Scott, who is the Business Breakfast presenter on Dubai Eye Radio. Brandy will be coming up shortly, but ahead of that, I would like to now welcome again and invite His Excellency Al Ghais up to give the lunchtime lecture. Thank you very much.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. It's a great honor and privilege to be here today in Fujairah, my first visit to Fujairah. Maybe I'll just say a few comments before I start reading my official comments that were written out for me by my editors. Your Highness Sheikh Saleh, it's a great honor and privilege to meet you for the first time, to be in Fujairah. I had the honor and privilege this morning to meet with the ruler of Fujairah. It's a great honor. Thank you both for receiving me and my delegation and taking good care of us while we are here in our second country, the UAE. The title and the theme of this year's forum is very interesting indeed, Navigating the Age of Energy Security. And I think there are some very powerful words in that sentence. When we tend to look at things, we just look at them on a short-sighted manner usually. But when we talk about the key words, energy security, we have to look, I think, more at the medium and long term. And the video that my team has presented, which we launched yesterday, by the way, today is the second place for us to launch officially the OPEC World Oil Outlook in Fujairah. We are honored to do that. Thank you for allowing us to do that, Your Highness. Thank you. Bigger font. Thank you for that. Your Highness, Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It's a great privilege to be here in Fujairah for the 11th Energy Markets Forum, held under the patronage of His Highness Sheikh Hamad bin Mohammed al-Shargi, member of the UAE Supreme Council and ruler of Fujairah. It's also an honor to have in attendance Your Highness Sheikh Saleh al-Shargi, Chairman of the Port of Fujairah, which, by the way, I had the privilege of visiting this morning and doing a tour, a truly impressive facility. So congratulations to Fujairah. Once more, I'd like to thank you for the warmth and the tremendous hospitality myself and my colleagues have had since we've arrived here. I'd also like to thank the organizer, Sean Evers, and his team at Gulf Intelligence for putting together this great gathering of all these people. Actually, a lot of old faces and many friends that I have not seen in many years, so really thank you for that. As we approach COP28 later this year in the UAE, in Dubai, I think the overall theme of the forum, Navigating the Age of Energy Security, Opportunities and Threats, offers an extremely important perspective for all of us. As I said in my earliest remarks, the issue of energy security goes to the core of OPEC's founding commitment to support a stable and sustainable oil market, which is in the interest of producers, consumers, and of course, ultimately the whole global economy. This issue has gained additional momentum over the past 6 years or so, as OPEC has been working with other leading oil-producing countries through the Declaration of Cooperation, what's commonly known as the OPEC Plus Agreement. Together, we have been front and center in helping reduce volatility and supporting a balanced and stable global oil market. The importance of energy security and market stability is not only vital for the short term, it is critical for the long term too. This is clear when we look at energy transitions and its intertwined issues on energy security, availability, affordability, and the need to reduce emissions. And I want to underline the key words, reduce emissions here. In this regard, we believe at OPEC that it's vital we take a fact-based approach to deliver a just, inclusive, and realistic transition, and a sustainable energy future for all of us on the planet. Unfortunately, some remain ideologically driven about our energy future. They dismiss certain energies and technologies as part of the past, not part of the future. We see this narrative for oil, with some asserting that fossil fuel demand would peak by 2030. And in some net zero targets and scenarios, global oil demand actually drops to around 75 or 80 million barrels a day by 2030. Your Highness, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, this is only less than 6 years from now. And over the period to 2030, it is expected that another 500 million people around the world will move into cities as the global economy continues to grow, and there remains a critical need to bring modern energy services to those billions that still continue to go without today, without basic energy needs in many parts of the world. This requires more energy, and as our recently displayed video shows, the World Oil Outlook shows, global energy demand is set to expand by 23% from now to 2045. Your Highness, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, we believe that there is no credible way to address this without utilizing all forms of energy, all available energy. Yes, we do believe in renewables. Renewables will have to play a much greater role. We do not deny that in OPEC. In fact, our OPEC member countries are already investing significantly in this area. There is no place other than the UAE to showcase this point. The UAE in particular is a well-known global leader in this field. Gas, hydro, nuclear, hydrogen, biomass will also expand, but there is no doubt that oil will remain integral in the energy mix in the future. In fact, by 2045, oil is expected to meet almost 30% of the global energy mix. Recent energy and economic-related developments, as populations glimpse what many initial net zero policies and targets mean for them, have made policymakers really reevaluate and reassess their approach to energy transitions pathways. And this has made the Secretariat in OPEC reassess its outlook for oil demand. In the WU 2023, as you saw in the video, oil demand reaches 160. It's important to remember that the Paris Agreement is about reducing greenhouse gas emissions, regardless of the source. And energy transitions are not about moving from one fuel to another, but about lowering emissions from all their sources. Your Highness, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, as we look forward to COP28, OPEC is not dismissing any energy source, technology, or people's approach. We in fact believe that all stakeholders should do the same. And we need to be honest about the realities on the ground and avoid being ideological about the way forward. A sustainable energy and economic future has to focus on all energy sources, all relevant and applicable technologies, and the views of all people around the world, and to deliver unparalleled investment in the magnitude that I just highlighted, with full collaboration and support by all stakeholders. Your Highness, ladies and gentlemen, we owe this to the future generations. Thank you very much.
right, hello again. Hi, marhaba. It's lovely to see so many old friends and some new faces as well. Let's get straight into it, Your Excellency. I want to dig in not just to the World Oil Outlook, the WOO, but also to the comments that you have made there. And let's start with the biggest number in the room, that 116 million barrels a day. And you've just hinted to us here that you think that could go even higher. It's already higher than your pre-pandemic predictions. Why?
Again, thank you, Brandy. That's a great point. I think before we talk about why it's a bit higher on the oil demand, I think I'd like to take you back to an even more important figure, which is the global economy is expected to double in size compared to what it is today. Population growth is expected to reach 9.5 billion from the level of 8 billion today. 500 million people around the world are going to move into cities. We're going to have so many new cities that will require all forms of energy. So oil is just one component out of all the forms of energies that will be required to fuel all this growth in the future. We are also clear that we're not going to depend only on oil. The world will require gas, renewables, you name it. Whatever energy is going to be there, it's going to have to be utilized. So oil, the main reason behind this is, if I may use the term, the U-turns that we're seeing being made by countries, by governments around the world. I mean, to name a few, in the EU, we have several countries that are pushing back on deadlines. The UK as well, I've seen. In some states in the United States also, we've seen pushback on vehicle emission standards and delays in those deadlines. What this all means is that there will be more use for oil for longer. And we're seeing a turning tone or shift in tone compared to 2-3 years ago. And I think this is the main reason we are encapsulating all of this in our updated numbers.
It's still it sits very far away from some of the other numbers that we're hearing at the moment. I'm thinking, of course, of the IEA prediction that we will see peak oil, that we will see 2030 is the point that oil consumption then starts to decline. What am I supposed to do with those two views?
Well, that's a good question, but I think, again, as I highlighted, 2030 is less than 6 years from today. 30 years ago, the statistics are out there for all of you. The world still consumed or still used 80% fossil fuel-based energy. Today, it's still 80%. That's 30 years ago versus today. So to come and paint a picture like with all the challenges that are surrounding the penetration of electric vehicles, yes, they are penetrating the market, but there are challenges. The availability of critical minerals, the geopolitics of that, the issues related to where that can be done, how environmentally friendly we can go and get all these critical minerals out of the ground, storage of batteries, getting rid of all the batteries, the waste, the battery waste. There are a lot of challenges around there regarding the penetration of electric vehicles. We saw the news about the wind turbines. Siemens, for example, had declared massive losses of nearly $6 billion, if I'm not mistaken, because of some faulty wind turbines. Issues with solar as well. Again, this technology, what we are saying, requires more time to become more available, more scalable, and it will grow. We have shown in the WOO as well that renewables will grow, albeit from a much smaller base. So again, it brings me back to the main point, which is where we will say again and again that we believe in OPEC, we will need all sources of energy, renewables, oil, gas, coal, although coal will be declining, but the whole energy mix is going to be increasing, and we can't rely on just one source. The issue is how we decarbonize oil, how we get rid of the emissions. That's the main objective. And there are so many technologies which we showcase in our and by the way, we're going to take up a pavilion this year in the COP28 in Dubai, where we will show everybody how our OPEC countries are actually dealing with emissions. whether it's plans or projects that are in place already, technologies that will be scaled up and utilized with more investments, to show the efforts that are being done by the industry in our countries on how to decarbonize and reduce emissions overall. So for us, we don't develop our scenarios on the basis of ideological thinking. We have experts. I'm really proud of the OPEC research team, a strong force of 70 of the brightest, intelligent men and women from our member countries that we have hired, and they have come to work in OPEC, and they are doing a great job in delivering year after year, month after month, even on the short term, very accurate forecasting, which has been actually something that has been, I'm proud to say, by some of the media news agencies, some may be sitting here as well, have actually testified to the accuracy of some of the forecasting done by my team. So we don't look at ideology, we look at facts. We have accurate forecasters with experience, with modeling, and we take the realities on the ground as we are seeing today as a reason for us to reconsider and reassess our numbers. Hence, we came up with these numbers, and we do provide scenarios where we say, yes, it's not a perfect world. This is a long-term forecast. It could be plausible. There could be some parts that don't come as planned. And this is what we've seen with the net zero scenario, for example, as you mentioned, the IEA. The IEA made the net zero by 2050 scenario, but it is based on many different assumptions. Now we're seeing that some of those assumptions are not really falling into place.
Okay, so we're talking there about the supply when we're talking about renewable energy. Let's talk about the demand side then for your forecast. Asia looms large in it. Are you worried about China? We've just had a disappointing Golden Week. Even the positive data out of China hasn't been that positive.
Well, I had the privilege of working in China for 4 years, and I saw with my own eyes firsthand how Chinese economic power and how China can boom and open up and really impact the whole global economy, whether it's in trade or not just oil trade, but overall construction, economy. Again, it's important to differentiate between the short, medium term versus the longer term. I think we have built into our assumptions here robust Chinese economic growth continuing up to 2045. China today and India for that part, and most of Asia, Middle East as well, are providing a big portion of what we see as year-on-year oil demand growth. We believe that will continue in the future. Whereas we will see a decline in the OECD advanced economies, but we continue to see continuous growth in non-OECD, predominantly from China and India. So I'm not too worried about China on the medium to long term.
On the Indian front, though, which in the report is one of the main drivers for increased demand. I mean, India has said $80, and I know OPEC doesn't do price, but India has said $80 is too high to continue developing. What can OPEC do about that? Does that concern you?
Well, again, we have to look at the longer term and not the short term. Like you said, we don't comment on price levels. Individual countries have a price level where they feel comfortable and not for their own internal purposes, planning, economic growth. We have constant dialogue with the Indian government. I just met with His Excellency, the Indian Minister, at ADIPEC last week. We had a good discussion. So I'm not too worried about that on the short or the long term. I think India's economy is quite resilient. In fact, in our WU, our assumption is that India's economic growth will be the highest globally compared to everybody else, with the population growth, with the modernization. So I don't think that should be really an issue.
Okay, well, let's talk about the other big number that's in the report, $14 trillion. That's the investment that you say needs to go into the industry. We are in a room full of the industry. Where exactly do you want to see that money come from, and where exactly do you want to see it go?
I think the numbers, if I'm not mistaken, again, the biggest portion, I think, is in the upstream. But also we see huge requirements for investments in refining capacity, petrochemical industry, shipping, tankage, We're happy to see what's happening here in Fujairah as a classic example. Now, for us as OPEC member countries, we have continued to invest because of our strategic long-term vision for the importance of oil as a commodity required to fuel sustainable global economic growth in the future. And even during the pandemic, in the COVID-19 pandemic, when there was a big downturn and people stopped investing, many of our member countries, if not all, continued investing billions of dollars. We see countries like, again, a classic example, the United Arab Emirates advancing its targets to increase production capacity to 5 million barrels a day by 2027. Other member countries in OPEC, Saudi Arabia, my own country, Kuwait, all planning to increase. Iraq, Iran, Venezuela planning to increase once the sanctions are lifted. In Africa, many of our member countries. So for the OPEC countries, investments continue to be essential and critical and will continue to go because that's part of our mission and our objectives. We call on other parts of the industry to continue investing. It's not just the responsibility, we believe, should not just be shouldered by OPEC member countries. This is a global responsibility that will require everybody to invest. The IOCs, the NOCs, of course, we all have to collaborate in this.
What happens if they don't? What happens if you don't get it?
Well, that's a very good question. I think it's very clear that this is, as I said in my remarks, potentially setting up the world for chaos. I mean, if we don't have stable, secure, affordable supplies of energy, not only petroleum or oil, it is counterproductive to global economic growth. It's not going to help countries prosper. People who have, again, we're still suffering around the world. We saw in the video over 650 billion people suffering from energy poverty today. 650 million people. 2.4 billion people today still use inefficient cooking systems. So it's not a matter of just what happens. We have to look at the human aspect of it, the societal impact on countries, on peoples around the world. And I really call for everybody to step up and really believe that this is an important part of how we can provide human, societal, global economic prosperity in the future. It's not just a commercial matter in that sense. So I hope that this does materialize. And we at OPEC have been very vocal about this for many, many years. Myself personally, my colleagues, my predecessors, many of our ministers, if not all. Well, I think I'm very optimistic to start with. Because I know how firm this country's leadership stands behind getting this to be a successful COP, a COP of results, achievements, and implementation. I personally, because I know His Excellency Dr. Sultan Al-Jaber, he's a man that is a driving force, 24/7, working with his team to make sure that everybody comes on board. So back to your question, what do we hope to get out of COP? I think first, it's very important that we have all voices at the table. Everybody who's involved in energy and cares about climate action must be available. Nobody must be prevented from participating, and this is not going to happen in the UAE as opposed to other places where previous COPs were held. So we, as the oil industry, OPEC, we will be in COP. Many of our countries who are also not present in previous COPs will be coming to COP, most notably several of our African member countries who want to make their voice and opinions heard. They have an abundance of natural resources. We need to get out of the COP. Climate finance, this is a critical issue where promises, pledges have been made many, many years ago and still have not been fulfilled. We cannot ask people to transition without providing them with A, the technologies required, B, the finance. So it's very important to get these. I think that would be my hope. My fear, obviously, would be the counter argument that, God forbid, that these things do not come through. I really hope, and I'm confident, I really hope that we will get decisive action, agreements on the climate finance and funding. And put in place some mechanisms and means where technology transfer can be facilitated between those who have access to those technologies and those who need the technologies.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Haytham Al Gaith, everybody.
No problem. When you don't want the mics to work, they work. Thank you very much, Your Excellency, for those insightful words and outlook, and thank you to Brandy Scott from Dubai Eye Radio again. Your Excellencies, Your Highness, ladies and gentlemen, it's now time for lunch. The top table will be served at table, and there's a delicious buffet waiting for everybody outside. So bon appétit, and we will congregate at 2:30 up on the mezzanine level.